In this section, we will look at how to multiply polynomials. First, let's take a look at how to multiply two monomials together. To do this, you want to first multiply the coefficients together and then multiply the variable factors. So as we see in example 1, the coefficients are 5 and 4. So we first multiply the 5 and 4 together, and that leaves us with this 20. Then we want to look at the variable factors, and the variable factors in this case are x squared and x to the third. So we multiply those together. And remember, when multiplying two terms that have like bases, you just add those exponents. So x to the second times x to the third gives us x to the fifth. So our final answer is 20x to the fifth. Now let's look down at this second example. Again, we want to start by multiplying the coefficients together. So we start with the 7 times 6, as you see here, and that gives us the 42 in the final answer. Then notice that we have two different variables in this case. You want to look for the variables that are similar. So we have an x to the fourth in the first term and an x squared in the second term, both with the variable x. So we multiply those together, and since they have like bases, we add those exponents, and we're left with x to the sixth. Now we need to look at the y variables. So we have a y to the third in the first term and a y to the first in the second term. So when you multiply those together, again, adding the exponents on them, and remember, if you just have y, it really means y to the first power. So that leaves us with y to the fourth, and our final answer of 42x to the sixth, y to the fourth. Now let's take a look at how to multiply a polynomial by a monomial. In order to do this, you need to multiply each term of the polynomial by the monomial. And as you can see, we need to utilize the distributive property. So here we distributed the monomial of 4x squared to each term in the polynomial. So when rewritten, we have the monomial times the first term, and then we want to make sure that we keep those operations in mind from the polynomial. So we had an addition over here, so we have to keep that addition, and then we'll multiply the monomial by the second term in the polynomial. And again, keeping an operation of this -2, or subtracting 2, and take the monomial times that last term of the -2. Now, we need to simplify this. So, if we look at this first term that we now have, again, we're multiplying a monomial by a monomial now. And so we start by multiplying the coefficients of 4 times 3, and that gives us 12. And then since we're multiplying like bases here, we add those exponents of 2 plus 2 to get us down to x to the fourth. Then we want to look at this second term that we've been working with. And again, start with the coefficients of 4 and 7. So 4 times 7, as you can see here, gives us 28. And then looking at the variables in those terms, we have x squared times x. Again, they have like bases, so we add the exponents, and remember this x is x to the first, so 2 plus 1 gives us x to the third. And lastly, our last multiplication we're doing is the coefficients of these two terms, so 4 times a -2, and that will give us this -8. And then x squared times, as you notice up in here, there aren't any x terms with that -2. So really, we can say that that was x to the 0th power, because if you remember from our exponent rules, x to the 0 will always equal 1. So really, we're just saying this is -2 times a 1. And so we are left with x squared times x to the 0th power, so we need to add those exponents, so 2 plus 0 gives us x squared. And that leaves us with our final answer of 12x to the 4th plus 28x to the 3rd minus 8x squared.